Yo, what's up guys? In this video we are going to be talking about cabinet hardware and what I use in my shop. Especially if you're just getting started with this stuff, it can be a little bit overwhelming with the amount of stuff that's out there. So we'll try and simplify things a little bit today and I'll show you what I'm using. Here we go. So first thing, bear with me. I might look like I just rolled out of bed, and that's because I did. It is like 6 a.m. So we're gonna dive into some of this stuff, show you what I use. There are a ton of products out there, especially if you just go on one of these cabinet hardware websites and look for hinges or drawer slides and you've never ordered that stuff before, you are going to be overwhelmed and not know what to get. So we'll start with hinges and I'll bring you in a little closer and show you some of the stuff, but I try to keep it simple. And it's going to be different for everybody in every shop, depending on how you build, what style cabinetry you're building, your building methods, your overlays, all that kind of stuff to determine what you're going to use. So you've got to figure that out and kind of use what's best for you. I can tell you how I build. That kind of determines the stuff I use. So I'm using Blum products, right? I use Blum hinges, Blum, Bloom, whatever you want to call it. I use our undermount drawer slides, and I have even the shop that when I worked at a shop, that's what we used. Things did get a little weird in 2021 and you weren't able to really get the Blum stuff, especially. I mean, I'm sure all you guys know it got weird with being able to get materials and all that kind of stuff. So we did switch up. We switched to Salice hinges for a little while, and drawer slides we were using really whatever we can get. But things are better and we're back to using all Blum stuff. So what I'm using is basically 3 different types of hinges, mostly really one style, and they're these Euro style hinges. So they have a full overlay, a half overlay, and a full inset, which full inset, since I'm doing Euro style cabinetry, I'm rarely ever using. I would love to do more inset stuff, but it's just not something that's very popular around here, so you've got to kind of adapt. But what that means is, so the overlay is basically how much the door overlays whatever you're mounting to. So if you're mounting to a face frame, it's gonna how much it's gonna over, or if you're mounting just to your box like I am, how much it's going to overlay your box. So mostly I'm using a full overlay, which is about a 5/8 to 3/4 inch overlay, because my plywood boxes are 3/4 and my door is going to overlay that, so I have nice tight gaps. So I'm using mostly full overlays. Every once in a while I use a half overlay, and the half overlay goes up to 3/8 of an overlay. So if you have a plywood partition and you have a door on each side of it overlaying 3/8 plus or minus a 1/16 or so, I would use a half overlay. And then a full inset wouldn't overlay at all, right? So this is the style hinge I'm using the most. And then the plates I'm using, that's where things get different again, because there's all different style mounting plates, different thicknesses, face frame mounting plates. There's ones that mount to the back of face frames. There's all different styles. So I use these 0mm plates. That's the plate I use. I try and keep it simple because there's different thickness plates. Like this is a 0mm, and then there's thicker ones, so that'll give you a different size overlay as well. So there's a lot of variables. I try and keep it, like I said, keep it simple, so I'm not having to order 10 different style hinges and 10 different style mounting plates, and things can get confusing quick. So there are instances where you need to use a different thickness plate, or you run into some weird stuff. A couple years ago, well, not a couple years ago, this was like 5 years ago, did a kitchen reface job, and we basically were making all new doors, and they were face frame overlay, and they had all different style or size overlay hinges, and we needed to replace them with soft close ones. So getting all the right hinges and everything, it was kind of a nightmare. We ended up making it work, but it can get crazy. So try and keep things simple. And then other hinges we use. So this one here, this is a blind corner hinge. So this one would be like on a door in a corner that opens, and the cabinet is open in the back. So this thing actually, instead of the hinge coming back, it actually wraps around, if that kind of makes sense. I'll show a picture so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But usually in a kitchen, there's 1 or 2 doors like that. So we use a couple of those. And then there's inset and overlay in different style of these as well. There's 45 hinges that if you had a corner cabinet that was mounted on a 45, there's hinges for that. There's these little ones, which are for face frame overlay stuff that we don't really do much. I had a couple of these in the box, but yeah, these mount, there's actually no mounting plate. These mount right to the face frame. There's like these little things that stick out here that kind of hook onto the face frame, and you screw it right on. And there's all different overlays with these. So if you are new to this definitely will sound overwhelming and confusing, but it's really not when you figure out what you're going to be making, how the hinges work, how the plates work. Once you figure that out, you'll be good to go. You just have to figure out what's going to work best for you, and then you can set up your machines for it and everything. So I have my hinge press machine set up, for my full overlay hinge, because there's also adjustability in that with where you drill the hole from the edge of the door, because the Blum manual gives you a range for each style hinge, and that gives you a little bit more or less of an overlay as well. So there's a lot of variables. Definitely if you're setting up for the first time to do it, make some scrap pieces, like cut a piece the size of your door, drill holes, play around, get your overlay and your reveals and all that stuff right before you drill into the door. But once you're set up, try and keep things consistent, and then you're less likely to run into issues. So like I said, I'm using 95% of the time the Blum 0mm plates with either a half overlay or a full overlay hinge, and that's really it. I have a friend down in California, and he does a lot of inset work, he does all kinds of work, and he builds all his cabinets to only use a full overlay hinge. And so even on an inset, he'll have the face frame, and then on the inside of it, he has this 3/4 plywood. So he's using an overlay hinge. Keeps it simple for him. He only uses that hinge, and that's what works for him. So that's what he does. So you've got to figure out what works for you and make that work. And set up your machines for it and all that, and you'll be good to go. I know that sounds easy, right? Before I had the hinge boring machine, I used to use a drill press. I would drill all my things with the drill press, and then I would have the screw-on hinges. So these ones are the inserters that just press into the 3 holes and lock in. But you can get these without that, and it just has holes here, so you can screw them on. And then there's even these other ones with the dowels, so it'll drill the holes, and then this actually presses into there, and it puts these little dowel things in there, and then you can unscrew it. So a hinge press is good. Craig makes a jig that you can drill the holes. You just clamp it on. You guys have seen it in some of the shop cabinet videos I did, and you can drill your holes like that. So there's a ton of ways to get this done. All right, so drawer slides. Drawer slides are another one that can be confusing. You've got different lengths, you've got under mounts, side mounts, all different kinds, all different brands, different style mounting clips. There's a lot of variables with those too. And like I said, in 2021, when things got weird, I had to start using some different brands, because that was, like I said, we were using whatever we could get, because I'm sure most of you guys know the getting hardware became very difficult. Something that was always part of the job that you didn't even think about. Like, I would just call my rep, order what I needed, and then, you know, it'd come in a day or two. And then it became, oh, okay, well, yeah, your drawer slides will be there in 3 weeks. And then your drawer slides won't be there for 2 months. Like, it got crazy. So we switched. We went to the Gross drawer slides, the Dynapros, which are actually really nice. I actually really, they're super smooth. They're rack and pinion, so the drawer doesn't really rack at all. They have good adjustments in the mounting clips. And so then after a few weeks, then those became hard to get, and it just kind of got worse. So things are good again. So we're back to using the Blum drawer slides. We use undermount slides, so these mount underneath the drawer, so you don't really see them when the drawer pulls out, as opposed to side mounts. So these are side mounts here, and these are more old school. And these actually mount right to the side of the drawer, so when the drawer pulls out, you know, you see these. Adjusting these is kind of a pain. Mounting them is kind of a pain. They don't look as good, obviously, because you see them. I really never am using side mounts. We're using all undermounts, and then there's full extension. So that means the drawer comes all the way out of the cabinet. It fully extends out of the box, which is what we use. So what gets different with these, so we're using the Blum tandems with Blum Motion, so they're soft close. They're really, really nice slides. And the clips, the mounting clips that we use, there's a lot of adjustability in these. So these mount to the bottom of the actual drawer box. Where the adjustability comes in is when you mount your drawer front to it. When you mount your drawer front, and we're trying to get all the reveals nice, there's adjustability up and down and side to side. They also make another mounting clip that has an in and out adjustment, which is really nice if you're doing inset. And then like different styles, so these are the Gross ones, the mounting clips. They all kind of do the same thing, they just look a little different. These ones are the Headitch. So it got to a point where I was able to get the Headitch drawer slides, and I actually really like these. The clips, there's a lot of adjustability in the clips. The hinge, or the slide, is very smooth and works good, and they were pretty cheap, so I did actually really like those. But back to the Blum, because those are my favorite. You can see a drawer here. The bottom of this is the back, is actually dadoed out here for the slide to fit in, and there's a indicator pin back here for the back of the slide that locks in. Again, it's one of those things, find one that works for you and try and stay consistent, because it's just going to be easier for you every time you're trying new slides or doing something different. You're going to have to figure that process out every time you're doing it, you know. So my process, I'm using the same thing. So mounting my drawer slides and my clips and putting drawers in and adjusting them, everything is simple because I've used these things thousands of times. Everything just is easy. It doesn't mean it was easy right away. There's definitely a learning curve, and obviously you have to figure out how you're building your boxes, how you're mounting your drawer slides, because the way I build and mount mine, they just screw in right to the inside of the box. Some people use face frames and they have brackets in the back holding them up, and there's different ways to mount these things. And there's a lot of cool hardware out there. I did a job how long ago was that? It wasn't last summer, it was the summer before that we finished it, and it had these Blum Aventos, they're called. They have a few different styles. I forget which ones we used, the HKs maybe. I don't remember what they were, but they were the Blum Aventos, and so they're for cabinet doors that flip up. And basically they make a few different styles, one that flip up, one that go kind of straight up. We use the ones that kind of went straight up, and then they have it so you can just pull it open, or they have, it's called a servo drive, and so it's like an electric motor up there, so you just touch the front of the door and it goes right up, and then there's these little sensors that you mount, and then you just touch that sensor and the door comes down and closes softly. We did those on a kitchen, really modern style kitchen. That was pretty cool. I'll show you, I'll add a clip in there to show you, but those are very cool. They're super expensive, but fun to work with different stuff like that. There's a lot of cool stuff out there now. All our trash pullouts that we use, I use Rev-A-Shelf, wood, dovetail trash pullouts, and they come with the Blum slides. There's a ton of kitchen accessories and stuff. If you got like a Rev-A-Shelf book, or Hayfala makes really nice stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there. So like I said, it's really playing around and figuring out what's going to work best for you and the way that you build. If you guys have questions, I can try and answer any questions. As far as hardware goes, I'm not like an expert on all the hardware that's out there. I actually have a rep that I work with from Worth, my sales rep, and he is incredible. Like, he knows all the different brands, he knows everything. If I have a question or need something weird or whatever, I just call him and he's like, oh dude, this is what you need, and that's it. So find yourself a rep and that's knowledgeable and can kind of walk you through stuff, because that is going to be very helpful for you. If you're just going on a website and looking and you don't know what you need to get, it's gonna be tough for you. So hopefully that kind of helped you a little bit with understanding some cabinet hardware. I will answer some of the questions that came in on Instagram this week that I got. Talk about those for a few minutes, and then that'll be it. Next week, I really need to tackle that other corner of the shop. I do have a pretty busy week next week with work, like with things I need to get done as well. We have some cool projects coming up, so that'll be fun. And yeah, let's get into some of these questions. All right, so just like before, I'll do my best to try and answer your questions the best that I can. Some of them are like the pricing. There's always questions. I always get questions about pricing. So pricing is weird because, so I do like a linear foot price, and then I add for drawers and stuff like that. But it's going to just be different for everybody. So that's why I don't like to give that just to everybody who asks, because you might be using different materials and building a completely different way. So my linear foot price might not make sense for you at all. You're in a different area and prices are different. And there's so many variables with that it's like, do you use own Festool domino joiner alternatives? I do have a Festool domino. I have the XL. That is freaking an amazing machine. I really don't use it that much, but when I do need it, it's incredible. I do use my biscuit joiners a lot. I have a regular biscuit joiner, and I have the Lamello, the Zeta P2 with the clip biscuits, and that thing is amazing. For cabinetry especially, that thing, it's not necessary, right? It's an expensive tool. You can get by without it. People have gotten by without it for years. It does make some things very nice and easy, especially attaching fillers in the field that need to be scribed, and there's just so many things that thing is awesome for. How do I do floating shelves? Yeah, I'll do a video on that. How we mount them and stuff. Have you ever done an LED strip lighting inside a closet or built-in cabinet? Yeah, I have. Like in a closet, if you're routing them into the side panels or up into the top, I do like to use this like C channel. It's got like, you put the strip in there, it's got a diffuser on it, so it looks nice. How you estimate project timing from lead, design, wait, build, finish, install. So that whole process is kind of different on every job as well. Like on a new house, the builder that I work for on a new house, timeline always gets messed up, because you say, okay, we're breaking ground on this date, we're going to be ready for cabinets on this date. There's always things that happen and that come into play. So for me, especially with the size of my shop, and I can't just build a full house worth of cabinets and let it sit here for months, because I don't really have the room for that. So I have to kind of know how long things take me, when the project is going to be ready, so that I can build things and get them out the doors as fast as I can. One thing I do have is like the builder that I work for, he has a shop where he keeps equipment and stuff, and he will let me store stuff there if I need to, so that's helpful. But timing and all that stuff is one of those things that you get better at as the years go on. In the beginning, it was kind of hard, hitting deadlines and planning and being smart with my time. And then as far as like design and stuff like that, so when I work with homeowners, sometimes they have a designer, sometimes they don't, and I kind of help with that process. I said in the last one, I also have Matt Moore, and he kind of helps with that as well. And then, but like one of the builders I work for, they have a designer. She basically will walk through, go over everything. She knows what she wants, and then I'll have the drawings done, and then we go back with her and the builder and the homeowner, go through all that stuff, change anything they want to change, get the design locked in, and then we go from there. So planning to show how you organize your install toolboxes? Yes, I will. How's your waterborne finish transition going? Great. I love that stuff. Talked about it in the last video a little bit, but yeah, it's amazing. What brand is your hinge boring machine? It is Omal, it's called. I don't know. It's a really nice machine. I really love that thing. It's sweet. Any secret weapons for time management? Stay off of this. This can be distracting, especially when you're in the shop by yourself. It's easy to just pick up your phone and get distracted. So I try to, when I'm in here, get focused and get to work. I was using the AirPods for a long time, and then they kind of stopped working. So I got the Bose earbuds, and those things are incredible. They have the noise canceling. Oh man, they're awesome. So having those on and just kind of getting focused and getting to work, trying to be as efficient as possible and not procrastinate, and that whole kind of thing. There's been so many times over the years where I've kind of taken on too much work, or deadlines really coming up quick, and I've put in crazy amounts of hours, and at that point it's not fun. Like, it becomes miserable. And yeah, so managing your time, giving yourself enough time to do a project, and a lot of that stuff is going to come with time, because in the beginning, especially when I went from working in this big shop with all the equipment and everything set up really nice to working out of my garage and trying to build a kitchen, it took a lot longer because I didn't have all that equipment and all that stuff. So figuring that out, but again, it takes time to figure that out. But any secret weapons? Yes, not really. How do you seal the core on MDF when making end gables? I don't really know what you mean. Like a finished end panel? The only thing that would be MDF on one of my finished end panels would be the panel, because it would be a 5-piece panel. So it'd be stiles and rails with an MDF panel. If it was paint grade, I wouldn't just have a flat piece of MDF. Would you ever consider farming out your finished work? Why or why not? I did that when I first moved out here. There's a place in Bend. They have a nice shop and everything, and they were good. Like, I would drop the stuff off. It was good. It was a little expensive, and you never really knew how long it was going to take. You could drop stuff off. It could be ready in a couple days. You might drop it off and it might be ready in 3 weeks. And then if something got scratched or something was damaged in the field, and then it had to go back there so they could repaint it, and just being able to do it yourself, I think is just, it works good for some people, and that might work for you. I have friends that have finishers that finish all their stuff, and that's what works for them. So that's fine. It's another one of those things you got to figure out what works best for you. For me, I like to do it. Gives me the ability to just keep more things in-house, I guess. Opening my shop in New Hampshire, May 1, what good words of advice for a guy that is starting out? Put your head down and focus and get to work. Like, you're gonna have to put in lots of hours to build up clientele. Don't sell yourself short if you don't have to. There's a lot of times in the beginning, I would lowball things just to get projects. Sometimes you got to do that, but I kind of did it to myself a lot, and when you're working like that, man, it can be miserable. So try not to sell yourself short, but you also do have to build that reputation and with builders and designers and homeowners and stuff like that. So really doing a good job, making sure people are saying good things about you or would recommend you to other people. One of the things is communication is like the biggest thing. You need to communicate well with your clients. If they email you, email them back. If they call you, pick up the phone, text them. Like, you need to communicate. If you're gonna be late, be open and honest. Like, communication is probably the biggest thing. How do I get more contractors leads without tarnishing my reputation by overselling? So you've got to know how much you can do at a time. If you're a 1-2-man shop, there's only so much you can do in a day. So knowing that and not taking on 5 kitchens and telling everybody you'll have them done in 2 months when you know you can't do that. I mean, you've just got to know how much you can handle at a time and how long that stuff is going to take you and all that, because you don't want to take on too much. This kind of happened to me last year. Things just came in so fast, and things that were supposed to be spread out, and they all ended up kind of dropping at the same time, and it became very difficult, and we got it all done, but it was by no means fun. And so yeah, I would say just knowing how much you can handle. What materials you use for side panels? MDF maple. If they're like a panel, like a 5-piece panel, paint grade, I'm gonna have poplar with the MDF panel. Where do you get your plywood from now and when you were in CT? Right now I get my plywood I get my pre-finished stuff from Worth, and then I get all my stain grade and specialty plywood, I guess, from a place in town called Hardwood Industries. When I was in Connecticut, I would get it from, there was a place, Rugby, that had everything, so I would get most of my stuff from there, or Connecticut Plywood. Do they have woodworking classes? I would love to attend a class to learn. There are people that have classes. I don't have classes. Pricing for builders versus homeowners. So I don't really have, like, I've had builders reach out to me and be like, well, is this your builder pricing? Like, I'm a contractor, but I don't really have builder versus homeowner pricing. People come and call you and think you've just got cabinets stacked up somewhere that you're ready to just sell. Like, no, everything gets built custom, and so my prices are my prices. Yeah, I know that there's other bigger production shops that can do that. For me, I really can't. Any advice for getting a good finish with a clear coat? No orange peel, brushing, etc. Yeah, if you're spraying, I mean, like, I'm using the water base with the airless pumps. HVLP, I used to have the Fuji, the HVLP, and that was very difficult. I would always get orange peel. I could never seem to get that thing as dialed in as much as I wanted. And then switching to the airless pump, I mean, everything just lays down freaking nice. It's all experimenting and figuring out what works. I don't know what you're spraying with, but do test pieces, thin your material more. I mean, there's a lot of variables with that as well, but I think I answered most of your questions. If you guys have more questions, leave them below. Hopefully this video is helpful. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.